Shelby Hutchins, Assistant Professor of Health, Human Performance, and Recreation. Our department here at Pitt State has a really great group of faculty with diverse interests and unique specializations. And today you'll get to meet one of them. Joining us is Dr. Laura Covert-Miller, Associate Professor of Health, Human Performance, and Recreation. Thanks for taking time out of your day to take a break and talk with us a little bit.
Of course, you're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Hutchins.
So, you know, you've got a unique specialty within our program. But before we get into that, run us through your background, run us through where you're from, how long have you been at Pitt State, that sort of thing.
All right. So I grew up in a small town called Robinson, Kansas, which is in the northeast corner of the state of Kansas. And it is close to Hiawatha, if anybody is familiar with that, but it's also a small town. I have been at Pitt State. I'm on my 10th year at Pitt State.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you got to Pitt State, had you completed your dissertation yet? Were you still finishing your PhD? Where were you in your kind of academic journey at that point?
I was surviving in my academic journey. I was still working on my PhD when I came to Pitt State, and I had no intentions of getting an academic job with an uncompleted PhD, but that's just how it happened. But I came to Pitt State and I had a couple classes left to take still and my dissertation to complete. But after some long, grueling years, I finally finished it out.
And where was that PhD from?
It was from the University of Nebraska, Omaha.
And what was it in specifically?
Gerontology.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What about before that? Masters, bachelors? Walk us through that.
Yeah, I was just talking to some students today that I am a Bearcat. So I graduated with my undergrad from Northwest Missouri State. Well, before I went to Northwest, I went to Highland Community College in Highland, Kansas. And there I played volleyball for 2 years. And then I transferred to Northwest Missouri. And then I got my master's degree at Northwest Missouri State too. When I was at Northwest for my undergrad, I got my bachelor's in community and worksite wellness and therapeutic recreation. And then my master's is in rec with an emphasis in TR.
So tell us a little bit about your time at Northwest during your master's. You were a GA?
I was a GA in the University Fitness Center. So my responsibilities were overseeing the employees there, the student employees. I worked with the fitness manager in the scheduling and creating workouts for individuals as well, and just overseeing the day-to-day operations.
Gotcha. And during your PhD, were you working full time? Like what was that like, and what kind of prompted your shift into academia?
Right. Good question. So yes, I worked full time and went to school part time. When I moved up to Omaha, I knew that I wanted to work in the physical activity fitness setting, but I also wanted to combine that with older adults and individuals with disabilities. I was able to marry the two together, and I worked at a wellness center that was specifically for those populations. And while I was there, I knew that my heart was in academia, coming back to academia. I really loved to teach, but I knew that K through 12 was not my cup of tea, working with an older student population. So while I was at my first job in Omaha, I had some really great, they were my clients, but they also became my mentors. They were former professors from the University of Nebraska, Omaha. And I got to know them very well. They are friends of mine too. And they really encouraged me because I told them that I was thinking about going back to school. And they just said, you need to do it. You belong in academia. And I didn't really know what they meant at that time, but I said, okay, sure, I'll do it. And so I did dive into my schoolwork blindly.
Yeah.
I went and had a meeting with the chair of the gerontology department. And I said, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'd like to do. And he said, great, you're admitted. I'm like, oh, okay. There,
Pump the brakes.
Okay, all right. So at that point, I would do night classes. So I would work when I was in Omaha, I worked at the wellness center for about 3 or 4 years, I think. And then I worked for a physical therapy company where I was an independent contractor, and I would go to retirement communities all throughout Omaha doing group exercise classes and personal training with the residents at the retirement communities. And then I worked at one retirement community my last year there. And that's where I was a wellness coordinator, but also oversaw employee wellness too. So I would work full time. I also worked at a kind of like a boutique gym as well. So my day would start, I'd work out like, get up at 4 o'clock, be at the gym by 5, start teaching classes from 6 to 7:30, then have my full-time job from 8 until 4, go to night class from like 4:30, 5 o'clock until 9.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And just repeat that. And I probably started working on my dissertation. It took me about 8 years to complete my PhD program.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I went about it. And it was a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like, I mean, you've got some experience in sport, you've got some experience on the personal training side of things, but your passion for therapeutic rec and all of that just comes through in everything that you do. And it's evident based on your degrees that kind of showed up early on in your life. What was the source of all that? And where does that passion come from?
I was thinking about this a while ago, and thinking back, because I honestly had the conversation with myself with, okay, how did I really get hooked onto this field and where did that start? And it really started, I remember when I was in high school and I was like in high school where you can go do those, whatever, like you have an hour to go work study or something like that,
Yeah.
So I would have 2 to 3 days a week, like 1 or 2 days a week, I would go to a special education classroom at the elementary school, and I would help kids with their homework, with reading, whatever that was. But then I would also go to our special education annex building, and I would help out with the students who had cerebral palsy and severe intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I really enjoyed that. And then once I went into college at Northwest, I was involved with just volunteering with Special Olympics and things of that nature. But it's just kind of always, I just love it. There's just something about it that it's rewarding to work with this population. But what's great is just so much that I can learn when working with various ability levels. And I learn a lot about myself in return as well. And it's fantastic. I would always leave with a smile on my face from my jobs and from my volunteering experiences. And you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't sound like you would have worked those hours that you worked while you were completing your PhD if it wasn't something that you're absolutely dead set passionate about. So,
and just to kind of add on to that too, and I was thinking, I'm like, well, do I want to go back to school full time or be part time? And my main thought was that if I'm going to stand up and teach about this and teach how to actually implement interventions and activities and programs, I have to have actually experienced it.
Yeah.
And that to me was important to bring into the classroom rather than just talking on theory and concepts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So with that, we're going to run through some more rapid fire questions here, cover some of the classes you teach, teaching style, so on and so forth. So what classes are you teaching currently, and what's your favorite class to teach?
Currently, well, this semester I am teaching program and design, and I teach the therapeutic recreation courses. So a TR programming class, a trends and issues class. I also teach adapted physical education as well. I oversee all of our student interns. And then I also teach an interventions in TR class, assessment and documentation in TR, intro to gerontology. I teach an undergrad research class as well within recreation, adult health and development class, anything associated with older adults or therapeutic rec, most of it I'm teaching.
Yeah. And which of those is your favorite, if you could pick one?
Oh, that's a hard one. I would have to say, I think it's a tie between the two. So I've got my interventions in TR class, and that is where the students are responsible for, we go out into the community and we work with individuals with disabilities, and we do this for 6 to 8 weeks. And basically I just throw the students into it because I want them to learn to think on their feet, to adjust, to be comfortable, and to really go through that learning process of what we talk about in the classroom. So that's really fun to see them grow throughout that 8-week period, from them being really hesitant to jump in and to work with the different individuals we're working with, to not wanting to leave.
Right.
Yeah. My second one, I guess the one that I tie with, is the undergrad research class,
Ooh,
the
do
research and
tell.
recreation.
Yeah.
Why I like this class, okay, is because the majority of the students, when they come into the class, are like, I've never done a research project. I don't know what a lit review is. I don't know how to write this. My experience has been that students will come in with a mindset of failure in this class.
Yeah.
But in how I teach the class, I see students progressing, and the majority of the students are really starting to like the class because it's something they haven't really done before. But it's really cool when they're like, I did not want to take this class, but at the end of the semester, they say, I've really enjoyed taking the class.
Yeah.
So it's just fun. It's that student growth and development that is really fun to see.
Yeah, research appears as such a daunting topic for our undergrad students, and showing them how cool it can be, and how much you can really gain from a research project is something that's always, fun to see them realize at the end of the semester.
Yeah.
So you've kind of alluded to it already, but how would you describe your teaching style? What's your methodology?
Adventurous. I think it's definitely experiential.
Yeah.
I truly believe that I come from a practitioner standpoint. I believe that it's important that you know how to do what I'm teaching in class. And my goal for all of the students when they graduate from this program is that their resumes are at the top of the pile, that they come in and their resume says that they have implemented, they have created different types of programs, they have worked with all of these different populations, they have completed assessments, they understand how to do documentation, because to me, I want them to leave with diverse range of skills, and that they can apply for so many different jobs. And again, I can only talk so much about a topic, for them to actually understand it and to learn about it and to be immersed in it. So it's that experiential learning piece that I think is that I love to see and do within my classes.
And what's been the most beneficial experiential learning activity you've had your students engage in over the last couple of years?
Man, that's hard.
Is there one that you can point out that has been really cream of the crop with all the outcomes that you had hoped for and everything else?
I think so. Through the therapeutic rec classes, the common theme is that all but one of my classes that I teach in TR, we are involved in the community. And so I think just the students having to create and implement their therapeutic-based interventions within a community setting, whether it be with a special education classroom, whether it be with a community group with individuals with disabilities, whether it be with an older adult group. I think that is where I see it being, I don't know, I guess the most effective, but there's kind of that common thread. But I guess, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. What organizations around Pittsburgh have you worked with specifically then?
We have collaborated in the past with Mosaic, New Hope Services, some different retirement communities that are here in town, the elementary schools, the middle school. We've done some programs as far as my recreation classes go. We've done a couple programs with the high school as well. The event, and this is probably going to jump ahead maybe, but a project that was designed in one of my classes about 5 years ago, is I told the students, I challenged them and said, I want you to create an event that's going to be an advocate for TR, but provide an opportunity for individuals with disabilities just to be, to come. And no matter their ability level, their ages, we just have this event. And so the students created what's called a Terrific Field Day. And we have in the fall, and then a Terrific Day of Play that we have this spring. We're going to have it this upcoming spring at the Plaster Center.
Do you have a date?
April 27th. It's a Wednesday. It's that Wednesday. So whatever, I think it's April 27th.
Everybody be looking for it, April 27th.
It is an awesome time. But with that, we are able to reach out. We had at our last event we had, which was in the fall of 2019, we haven't been able to have it since because of COVID.
Right.
But at the last event we had in 2019, we had over 200 people attend. And so that's where we had the schools in the Pittsburgh community, right, and their special education classes. But then we've also had pretty much SEK area.
Yeah.
So the schools in the SEK area, we have had organizations, not only adult services in this community, but services in Fort Scott and Joplin and surrounding areas who have come to this event. And so that is how we're able to really reach out to a lot of the different community organizations, even if it's once or twice a year, but to get them involved as well.
Yeah, making those connections is critical, especially in a region like Southeast Kansas, where it seems everybody knows everybody. So why not take advantage of those connections?
Yeah.
Along those lines, using those connections, I know you've talked about some of your research that you've done in the past, but tell us about your ability lab. Tell us about the research that you're doing. Tell us about some of your student workers, your GA, Libby, she was on the podcast. Tell us about all of that.
Well, where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with the ability lab, the concept of the ability lab first, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so the concept of the ability lab is to be a space that provides opportunities for all sorts of recreation-based interventions, I guess you could say. And specifically how I'm using the lab is because within the lab, we have a lot of different equipment and supplies that can be utilized by anybody in the department. So when we have students who are going out to do programs in the community or doing different projects for classes, they can come in and use the equipment, right? They can rent out the equipment and they can use that for different events, which I don't know if all students know about that, but that can be done as well. But how I'm also using the ability lab is to utilize it in a way that promotes learning and research in focusing on individuals with disabilities. So within the lab, I've been able to build up more equipment just because of the grants that I've been able to receive. And what I would really love to see happen is that I have a living and working lab that provides physical activity, adapted physical activity classes, that provides educational classes, and it's something to where students are leading it. So students have those opportunities to lead. So taking what we're doing during class time, but making it something that is sustainable and lasting, like every day of the week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
awesome.
Ideally, that's what I'd like to have happen.
Yeah.
That's in time. So research wise, what's happening in the lab is that I have been fortunate enough to make some really great connections with individuals in the community. And about 2 or 3 years ago now, I think it was, I reached out to Special Olympics Kansas and just said, hey, I have this idea. You guys want to work together? And they said, whatever you want, whatever you need, we'll get it for you.
Yeah.
And so we just started building a relationship. And so in 2020, Special Olympics Kansas approached me and asked if I wanted to be part of a university grant that Special Olympics North America reached out and said, hey, we have this research project. We'll give you this grant money if you will do fitness assessments with athletes throughout the state of Kansas. So we partnered together and did that during COVID. That was a lot of stress, but it worked out. And at that time, I was able to hire some student workers last year to come in, and they helped with data collection and entering data. And through that data collection and whatnot, they were really starting to understand and see the impact of these physical activity interventions, right?
Yeah.
And so we wrapped that up. And then this year, because of how my research has been taking off and just the energy that it requires to dedicate to this kind of stuff, I was able to get a GA to work with me, and that was Libby. And Libby was part of the project last year, so she was able to just jump right into our projects this year. So this year, we are working with Special Olympics North America and Special Olympics Kansas on another evaluation type grant. And so we are doing, again, fitness assessments throughout the state of Kansas on Special Olympic athletes. We are doing fitness assessments with those athletes who are going to the USA Games, which is occurring, I believe, at the beginning of June. We're doing fitness assessments with those athletes, but then also just athletes who are participating in general Special Olympics activities. And so that's been really fun to do. The students have come with me to implement those assessments as well. They've traveled to Wichita with me. We'll be going to Topeka in April to do another round of assessments with all the athletes as well. And so that funding has really helped to provide growth to the program and what we're doing. But through our research and our collaboration, there was an organization that reached out to me and said, because you have the experience in this, would you be willing to do a research project with us? And so now Libby is overseeing that. She's responsible for that project. And really, we're creating our own therapeutic recreation department, which is really exciting.
That is.
It's all for research, but we're building it in a way that you would create a TR department.
Yeah.
And it's just been really exciting. And I'm excited about the partnership that we have established, not only with Special Olympics, but with this other organization.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm excited to watch it grow in the next couple of years.
Thank you.
Of course, it's very evident by, the way your students talk about you and, everything that you're doing, the connections that you're making, that you're having that impact that you're hoping to have. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
Outside of work, what do you do for fun? What does Dr. Covert-Miller look like outside of the SRC?
Outside of the SRC, what do I look like? A hot mess. No.
Don't we all?
I'm joking, just joking. I love to spend time with my family. I have a wonderful husband that I can't speak any more highly of. He's just awesome. But we spend time together. We're married and living.
They never see each other. That's fine.
But I love to work out. I love being physically active. I love to run. I've completed marathons, half marathons, triathlons, duathlons. I love them all.
Yeah.
Right? It's all a good time. I have a dog that I adore and I love to take her out on walks and she comes running with me. I like to just, hang out with my family, hang out with my friends. I love to cook. I'm liking baking. So I like to host dinner parties and have people over. I like to eat. So I like to go out to dinner, travel, love to travel. So
what's your favorite recent trip you've taken?
Recent trip about when I got my dissertation, or when I completed my PhD and graduated from graduate school. My friends and I, this was about 4 years ago now, maybe. Anyway, one of my good friends and I, we went to Italy. And so we went to Italy for 2 weeks. We traveled to Venice and then just went down the coast. And it was a marvelous time.
Wow, that's awesome. So 2 more questions before we get you out of here. First of all, where can we reach you if we want to find out more about your classes, your research? Maybe there's a community member out there that wants to get in touch and schedule some programming. Where can we reach you?
The best is my email, and that is lcovert, COV as in Victor, ERT, @pittstate.edu. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Awesome. You can contact the HHPR department, but really that's the easiest way because to know I'm around.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And for students who are thinking about maybe pursuing a degree here with HHPR, maybe more specifically within our therapeutic rec program, why Pitt State?
I think a common thread that you've seen throughout this, that we've discussed throughout this conversation today, is community. Yeah. And like I said, I am very community oriented. And I have student interns have come back and talked to me who have interned with students from other colleges and universities. And my students have said, well, I tell them about all the things that we do, that we go out into the community and that we implement interventions and, we do this, this, and this, and this. And they tell me that the students from these other universities, they haven't done anything such as that. It's more classroom based. So I think that we provide really unique experiences for students to really learn the material, but at the same time, they have such an awesome opportunity to work with such a diverse range of people in the community and in their classes, and just, they have an opportunity to make a difference. Yeah. Even when you're an undergrad and you come into class and knowing that you're going to go and work with a group of kids at an elementary school to working with a group of older adults, you have an opportunity to make somebody smile that day. You have an opportunity to go in and just work with them and have fun playing games and crack jokes. And students will leave my classes like, I didn't know old people like to tell jokes. Well, of course they do. So I think that is what makes it unique. And we're the only therapeutic recreation academic program in the state of Kansas. Yeah. And I think that makes us unique as well. But really, you get students get, at least from my opinion, right? And I'm kind of biased, but I think students just get a diverse range of opportunities if they are to come here at Pitt State, and different ways to be involved, whether it be in research or whether it be in the community or student organizations as a whole.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If y'all are interested in getting in contact with her, she listed her email address there. You can check us out on our website, Pitt State HHPR. And yeah, thanks again for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks.